All
All
right.
righty. Should I just get cracking? Should I share my
Yeah, just
screen?
get cracking. You can share your screen. I will be here in the corner if you
All
need me.
right. Cool. Can you see my screen okay? Everyone, can you see that? Just want to make sure everything's good. I will assume so. Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for joining my session. I'm very excited to talk to you about email, one of the oldest things in the world, older than I am. Now, I have an interesting story, I think, to tell about how email can be useful and relevant to you and how you build your communities. But I want to make something very, very clear. I'm not an email expert, okay? I'm going to share some things that I've learned in a relatively recent time frame over like 7 or 8 month period. And I've got a lot to get through in this session. So, prepare yourself. There's going to be a lot of slides, a lot of content that we're going to get through. Now, historically, I've never really considered email very important in my community building. Okay, I just always assumed that email was primarily delivered by, well, email marketing rather, was delivered by people like this, cheesy marketing people who would send out tons of material that looks a lot like this, really beautiful, well-designed emails that really have no content other than encouraging you to click on some kind of link to go and get something. And our inboxes are just cluttered with this crap, right? I mean, I logged into Gmail and went and pulled up some of the promotional emails. And this was from yesterday and not even a full day. You can see that there's so much junk in there. And yes, eagle-eyed viewers may have spotted that I subscribe to both the Joe Biden and Donald Trump email lists. And it is a sad state of affairs, my friends. I did it so you don't have to. Very, very interesting. And yeah, I big fan of Sweetwater. So in this session, I want to go through 4 recommendations that I think are important in doing email. But let me first of all tell you the backstory. So back in November, I released this book. It's called People Powered: How Communities Can Supercharge Your Business Brand and Teams. And this is my first business book. I'd written 4 tech books previously, but when you write a business book, it's a whole different deal. I won't bore you with the backstory, but in a nutshell, you have to find an agent because the business publishing houses won't talk to you unless you've got an agent. And then you have to put together a big proposal. And then eventually you can start having conversations with them. So went through that process. It took about 6 months to get the proposal together. And then my agent, Margot, had calls scheduled for me with 4 or 5 of these publishing houses. And every single one of these publishing houses asked me the same question: how big is your email list? Now, when I got this question, this is my response. And first of all, I didn't really know a lot about email because I assumed that it was done by annoying marketing people. But also when they said, how big is your email list? My response was, and they said, what was that? Sorry, the line's really bad. How many people have you got in your email list? About 400. Not particularly great. Okay. So I discounted this. Now, continued as is, got the book out. People seem to like the book. I see that many of you in the chat have read it, which I'm really thrilled by. But I always kind of had that in the back of my head about the importance of this email list. So I was chatting to a friend of mine one time. I was at a conference in LA. And my friend, I'm going to anonymize who it is. So I'm going to claim that it's Nico McBrain, the drummer from Iron Maiden. And my friend, Nico, said, email's fine. People just suck at it. They're just not very good at doing it. Okay. So I decided I should probably really think about doing this. Now, this was shortly before the coronavirus came and, riddled our world with misery. So back in March, I kind of started my email journey. Okay. And it's by pure coincidence. This is around the time that kind of coronavirus kicked off. I just started thinking about it around that time. So since March, I had about 400 people on my list because I had an old MailChimp system, registered, and I had a form on my website, but I didn't do anything with it beyond then. Since March, I've grown my list to about 1,700 people. Okay. So the things I want to share with you is how I've kind of gained this level of subscription. But to me, that's not the most important thing I want to share today. Because when you look at email and email performance, people usually judge email performance based upon 2 primary metrics. It's average open rate and average click rate. And this is based upon how many emails you send. So I've sent out, as of yesterday, 37,824 emails. And the average open rate is what percentage of those emails that you've sent out of people actually opened up because they're interested. And the click rate is what percentage of people have actually clicked on emails to kind of go and, do something within them. Now, the industry standard for open rate is 23%. And the industry standard for a click rate tends to be between 2 and 4%. So I took the screenshot from yesterday, but my open rate right now is 39.2%, and my click rate is 7.5%. Obviously a lot higher than the industry standards. Now, I'm not saying this to be braggadocious. I'm saying this because I think the things I'm going to share with you in this session will be relevant and hopefully very useful moving forward. I've still got a load to learn about email. Like I said, I'm not an email expert. I think I've been a bit lucky since I got started. So number one is that you got to share content that people actually want. Like communities are these amazing melting pots of ideas and content and discussion and collaboration filled with, you know, in the vast majority, very kind and empathetic and collaborative people. Okay. They don't want this. I don't know about you folks. I don't want emails like this. By the way, I'm seeing some very kind comments in the chat about my emails. Thank you very much. That's very nice. I appreciate it. So I asked myself the question at the beginning of this journey, like, what do I like to read? What's interesting to me? Because I'm a big believer that, you know, use your own mind as kind of like a customer demographic or a community demographic that you can learn about. So I started digging through my email and pulling out the ones that I liked. And there wasn't a lot in there, if I'm being honest with you. But one was this. There's a list called the Daily Stoic, right? And they basically send out these little Stoic messages. Stoicism is a philosophy about how to build rigor in your life. And I'm a big fan of it. One of the things I love about this kind of email is that it's got a lot of content in there. The content's in the email, and there's a bunch of links that you can click on to go and learn more about it. But fundamentally, you don't have to go anywhere else to get useful content, okay? Another example here is from Superhuman. I'm a big fan of Superhuman, which is my email client service that I use. And the founder sends out these emails that just show you how to use different features within Superhuman. So I started playing around with this and I started putting together my own kind of content. So this is a couple of examples of emails that I send out. The one on the left is where I sent out just some recommendations for how to start a podcast. I've been podcasting since 2004. So here's some recommendations, and I included like a little ebook with some practical guidance. The one on the right is how to get started building a community. The little diagram in there is from People Powered. That's how I tend to think about communities and how to build communities. So I started sending a bunch of these different emails out, and then I had an opportunity to look at the data, right? So this is a screenshot from one of the email chains that I send out. And as you can see, the open rate and the click rates are listed in there. And they look pretty decent compared to the industry standards. And I thought at the beginning, that's dumb luck, right? Like I just ended up working out okay. That's fine. So one of the other things that I learned as I went through this process, and recommendation number 2 is don't hassle people. All right. So I'm going to warn you all right now. I'm going to share something with you, and you're all going to get really annoyed, okay? Because this happens to us all. I'm sorry. It's going to probably ruin your day. But how many of you get someone reach out to you, like they reach out to you on LinkedIn and they say, hey, can we be a connection? You know, I'd like to get to know you. And I'm very open. I'll basically accept almost anyone on LinkedIn. So if you folks want to get to know me on LinkedIn, go and add me on LinkedIn. I'm almost certainly going to, you know, accept you. But what I am not happy about is when people do this, where they add me on LinkedIn and then they send me a message like this one, for example, from July the 15th. I've obviously anonymized who this is. You know, hey, you want to have a conversation about my business product or whatever? And I didn't respond. The day after, another message, July the 16th. You know, would you care to chat? No response. Half a week later, hey, just want to follow up with you. We've recently developed a revolutionary prospecting solution, which I really don't care about. And then it just kept going on and on and on. And here's the thing. No response is a response, okay? If someone walked up to you at a party and started having a conversation with you, and then you just didn't respond, you just stared at them blankly, they'd get the message. I don't know why this is so difficult to understand virtually. Okay, this drives me nuts. So let's be honest about this. This is spam. Okay, it's annoying and it's infuriating. By the way, this person I'm still connected to because I'm trying to see how many I can rack up. There's almost twice as many of these I've got right now. It's actually quite interesting. Anyway, so this is spam. So first of all, that's too much interaction, but also sometimes people send too much information out in one go. So I've obviously anonymized who this is because the guy that does this, he's in a group that I'm a part of, and yeah, I'm anonymizing him. Anyway, look at the dates. Look how many emails this guy sent out to me. Like, this is sometimes more than one a day, right? I couldn't believe this. I was like, this is just way too much, to the point whereby I actually emailed him. And I said, hey, I just wanted to drop you a quick note. I love the spirit and the focus of your work, but this is total overkill. Screenshot. Email's a powerful medium, but it can be overdone. And if I were in your shoes, I'd dial the cadence back a bit. I wouldn't want you to overwhelm potential buyers. I'm a big believer. If someone's doing something wrong, tell them about it politely. If I'm doing something wrong, I want you folks to tell me so I can fix it, so I can be better, right? And so I wanted to send him an email about this. You know, I've always ended up doing this in my life. I remember when I was at university, there was a guy in our dorm who smelt really bad, like weapons grade body odor, and no one would tell him. But I felt bad for him. I was like, he's got to know about this so he can fix it. Told him, stunk of deodorant for the next 2 weeks. So anyway, so I sent this guy this response, and as Lisa is asking, what was the response? I'll tell you what the response was, Lisa. Crickets. Yeah, nothing. Oh, sorry, wrong cricket. So not impressed that he didn't even get a response to me. So anyway, so what I've learned from this is don't send out too many emails in one go. Like, so here, for example, this is a snapshot of how often I send them out, about once every 3 or 4 days. I find that to be the best way of doing things. Okay. All right. This is time for coffee break, my friends. Hang on. Just while I take a moment to sip on coffee, I don't know if you can see me right now. I think you maybe can see me in my screen. Look at this. Someone gave me a gift of the Queen. This is the Queen. It's got a solar panel in it, and her little hand moves. Isn't that the greatest thing ever? Not sure why that's relevant, but it seemed relevant. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Investing in your audience. I love the chat, by the way. You folks are awesome. Investing in your audience. Now, again, I don't think anyone wants to receive this kind of stuff, right? Like, I'm a big fan of Waves Audio. I use a lot of their plugins in my music production, but they don't want this. The analogy that I like to use here, and I honestly forget who mentioned this, where I saw this, but when you think about your email, and I think you should think about your community in general in this way, think of them as a piggy bank, okay? And what you do is you keep putting value into the piggy bank. Content, emails, webinars, training sessions, whatever else. Keep putting lots of content in there. And then when you keep filling and investing lots and lots of value into your community, you can then request value. If you want to ask them to create some content for you, to come to your session, to come to an event, to speak at an event, they're much more receptive to providing that value if you've invested a lot of value in them. I really subscribe to Seth Godin's philosophy of we have to be people of service. Like, that's one thing I try to do. I'm not necessarily perfect at it, but I like to put out a lot of like blog posts and written material, YouTube videos. I'm doing a book club right now, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, again, people don't want this kind of stuff because it's not adding value to them. You know, so when I go back to sending this kind of content out, I think it adds concrete value that will be useful to them. It might not be completely relevant to them. They may not need it that day, but I think they'll go back and they'll think, Jono is sending me stuff that hopefully will be useful at some point in the future. Okay. So to give you an example of, I think, investing in your audience, a little while back, I sent out this email just to my list. And I just said, hey, hope you're all safe and well. You know, I want to build a relationship with my members, a real relationship. So here's a question. What's the biggest question or challenge you're facing right now? And all of these emails come from me. Ton of responses within a short period of time. And here you can see the dates on the right. I've been responding. Like, this has been an active set of conversations that have been going on for a number of months now. And I also, just as an experiment, used a tool called Loom. And I just sent video responses to people, you know, like, hey, got your response to my email. Just thought I'd share a few thoughts on this. And it's been like one person setting up a community wrapped around Alzheimer's. Another person's trying to save, pigs that are slaughtered because their meat's not useful and giving it to homeless people. All kinds of really interesting problems to kind of dig into. And I want people to be able to say, wow, he actually responded, you know? And I think people want that in their communities. They want someone to say the community responded, the community leaders responded. It's not just an automated email chain. Another example more recently is the People Power Book Club, which, Monica and Bill, who are members of a community that's wrapped around the book, came up with an idea of, we kicked this off today. And, you know, just inviting people to come and join these sessions where every week I answer kind of Q&A around the book. So to me, that's what it's all about. And then the final thing I want to recommend here, and then I want to save a few minutes for Q&A, is to engage like a human being, okay? The real beef that I have with these kinds of emails is that they come from people like this guy, you know? They're some marketing professional with plastic hair who's sitting in a office surrounded with glass walls, you know, drinking his kombucha and sat next to his, you know, designer. Like, I've got nothing against people like, this is John Crestani, by the way. He's quite a well-known marketing guru. I've got nothing really against people who do this. It's just not me. I want the emails to come from this guy, you know, the guy in his Hawaiian t-shirt sat in the backyard on a Saturday having a beer on a nice sunny day, okay? The challenge that I have is that people like this, they use techniques to be deceptively engaging. So let me give you an example of this. Many of you will have seen emails where your name is in the subject line, right? This is a common technique a lot of marketing people use. And I find it mind-blowing because I don't know about you folks, but in my entire time on this planet, receiving emails from thousands of people over the years, I've never once received an email from an actual person I know, a colleague, a friend, a family member, a client, that's got my name in the subject line. People don't do this. Human beings don't do this. But some marketing people think, oh, yeah, this makes sense. That'll get them. Well, look at those emails. None of them are being clicked on. Okay. So making it personal and authentic, I think, is critical. So to break it down, and this may seem subtle, when I take one of my emails just as an example, for example, normal subject line, no capitalization, no emojis. People don't do that. Human beings don't do that, okay? So yeah, like Seth says, look at me. I can use variables in my marketing automation tools. Normal subject line. All of the emails have to come from you. My emails don't come from noreply@jonobacon.com. They come from me. If you reply to it, I'll reply to you. If I have time. I can't reply to every single one of them, but I probably reply to 95% of the emails that I get. To write them personally, right? Like I write these emails, they're coming from me. Write them about you and your community, your experience. People like to see the story unfolding. People don't just want to look at the cake at the end of the bake. They want to see how the cake's been baked. That's too many words that rhyme with cake and bake, but you get what I'm saying. And then offering really practical value, like really unique, useful information in the email, not where you have to click on something to go and find out about it or go and buy somebody's book or go on someone's training course or webinar. And then finally, and this is the thing a lot of marketing pros struggle with, plain text. Get rid of all that visualization and design. Regular people don't send emails with lots and lots of visual stuff in them. They maybe embed a picture from time to time, but that's it. Also, Gmail and Outlook, they know how to suck out all of that HTML email and shove it into the promotions folder as well. So in summary, a couple of things I want to share. Track your metrics carefully. We have to be data-driven. If you're not measuring it, you're not improving it. Share content that people actually want. Make sure you don't hassle people because then you become annoying, and none of us want to be annoying. Invest deeply in your audience. Give them great stuff. Be a person of service. Engage like a real human being. And this is optional, but drink some gin. It's good for you. It's good for the liver. Before we wrap up, first of all, I want to say thank you very much, everybody. I know you've got lots of options today in terms of sessions that you can go to, and I appreciate you coming to mine. I'm really proud of this book. You know, I'm pleased that people seem to like it. People about it won a business book award recently, 5 stars on Amazon and Goodreads. People seem to like it. If you want to go and grab a couple of free chapters, you can go to jonobacon.com/pack. Pop your email address in. You'll get my email. You'll be able to see how it works. And you'll get 2 free chapters of the PDF version and 2 free chapters from the audiobook version, which I lovingly read with my velvety English baritone. But I send tons of stuff out: templates, cheat sheets, tips, best practices. I have free training courses, all kinds of good stuff. And then finally, just before I wrap up, I'm going to be doing a webinar on Wednesday, the 21st of October, which is all about doing content. Okay, so if you're interested in content, of which email is one piece, then you might want to go and sign up for that. I'm going to provide a ton of, I think, hopefully practical value in that session about how to put together a content strategy. I'm going to give you a downloadable editorial calendar, tips guide, additional training, all kinds of good stuff as well. Anyway, so that's it from me. Any questions from you lovely people? Thank you very much for the kind words. You're such a nice crowd. Community people are the best. Dan, do you send tons of stuff out twice a day via email? No, I try to send things out about once every 3 or 4 days. Let me get rid of my screen share so I can actually talk to you. All right. I know we've only got a few minutes left. Hey, Valentina.
Hi. First of all, can I just give you a big round of applause for
thank you.
Your presentation? I don't know about everybody else, but I learned just so much in the short space of time about emails. I definitely need to sort out my email game for sure. All right, let's do some questions then. I can't remember which question you just answered.
I just did the one from Dan. I think it was it Dan? Let me have a look.
Do you send tons of stuff out twice a day via email?
No. That would drive me to madness. I generally send things out no more than once or twice a week max. There are exceptions, like if there's something coming up, if there's a new event happening, but very rarely do I send people emails more than one time in a day or even in a week. So.
All right, next question. How about when your community is image driven, like arts and crafts peeps?
I think there's always a place for that. It's a great question. I think to me, making your emails visually interesting is great, so long as it's in the body, the content of the email. I think it's when it's all the fluff around the edge, you know, like I used in the examples where, where it's not so much the content. Like if you, for example, embed an image or a picture of a piece of artwork that's relevant to the topic that you're sharing, I think that's completely fine. But if you've got big headers and images and all kinds of stuff, I just don't think it works as well. And the other thing as well is I've got data on this. Like I tested sending out visual email, and not only did it not perform well, it also generated a bunch of unsubscribes. So.
All right, we don't want unsubscribes at all.
No.
Do you use services like Iterable or Taxi for email creation? Never
heard of them. So that'll be a no. I use a service called Text Editor. That's all I do. Yeah, I just write it myself.
All right. Seth says, how often do you create new content pieces for your emails?
So this is one of the things I'm going to get into in that webinar. I've developed a bit of a content flow. So for example, one of the things I do is I record a YouTube video. A friend of mine, Marius in Germany, edits it. And then what I do is my assistant, Heidi, will kind of draft some of that, almost like taking the bones of the piece down. And then I go in and kind of write it in my own language. So it looks how I would write it. That will often go up as a blog post. And then I will sometimes take that and put that into the email. I try to add at least 1 or 2 emails a week. But to be honest with you, I suck at that. I'm not very good at it. I keep getting busy with other stuff. So, but you know, the email chain is constantly growing. And the thing that I didn't touch on as much in this session is segmentation is critical. Like making sure that you're sending the right emails to the right people is really essential as well. So. Yeah,
definitely. All right. Caitlin says, do you find that shorter emails get better engagement? Length is always a focus at our team.
I think for me, the jury's out on that. I mean, shorter emails are always better, but I think shorter emails at the expense of delivering value is not. So I think if you can deliver real value in a short email, then that's perfect. You've hit the jackpot. But, you know, I tend to mix it. Like I'll have a short email, then a longer one, then a short one, then a longer one. I think it's got to be like, to me, the big question is, what is your audience going to take away from it? Are they going to take away something that's going to make their life better, solve their problems, make their pain go away? Then length is kind of secondary to that. But the other thing as well is cutting out all the waffle. Like, I think we're all guilty of like putting too much filler. So just looking at it and saying irrelevant, and trimming it out is also a really healthy exercise.
Yeah. Alessio says, reading long emails on your client is not so handy. Why not redirect people to your blog?
Because I think, first of all, it's a point of friction. You're going to lose a lot of people who will never click on the link. You know, like if the industry standard, put it this way, if the industry standard open rate is 23%, and the industry standard click rate is 2 to 4%, you're going to get a lot more people reading your content if they open it than have to click on a link to go and get it. So I'm a big believer in making barriers go away. So, but if there's something much richer, like if you're going to be sharing video or other kinds of content, then yeah, absolutely give people a link.
Definitely. Diego says newsletters, yes or no?
I'm not a fan of newsletters. I think they suck because for a number of reasons. They usually share a tiny amount of information about a load of different things. So they're ultimately unsatisfying. They have tons of links in there. So you don't get any particularly useful data on what people are clicking on and what's interesting to them. And because they've got so many links in them, they get stuck in spam, promotions, updates, inboxes. I'm not a fan of newsletters. I have seen some exceptions where newsletters are done really well because they're content rich, but that doesn't tend to be the norm that I see. So I think if you focus on the content in a newsletter form, then it can be very good.
Alessio says, how many subscribers did you increase with this presentation?
Let's have a look, everyone. I got 21 new subscribers. So, but
really?
I usually get about 5 or 6 a day. So, yeah, it's a bump.
Well, you put your quota for a few days now.
I know.
Kevin says favorite recommended gin.
Oh, how long have you got? My favorite gin right now, 2 Nordas, which is a Galician gin from Spain. Absolutely delicious. And then there is another gin, which is called Old Hollywood, which is from the Napa Distilling Company, which almost tastes like a cocktail. But I have a gin map, which I haven't updated it for a while, but I'm trying to collect gins from every country in the world. So if anybody has got any gin from weird, kind of unusual countries that you don't tend to get gin from, let me know, because I'd like it. I'd like to drink it.
All right, we've got time for 2 more very quick questions. Right. Kaz says, isn't your weekly email a newsletter? What's the difference?
That's an interesting point. So the way I look at it is that a newsletter is usually, it's kind of like, it's usually a table of contents with lots and lots of pieces of content in it. And then you'll get a snapshot of the content, then typically have to click on the link to go and find out more and learn more. And it's often just an aggregation of links. When I send out an email every week, what I'm sending is a piece of content about one topic, about one concept, one principle. So I don't think of it as a newsletter because it's like a singular piece of work. I think if someone's perception of a newsletter is getting email on a regular cadence, then yes, I have a newsletter.
All right, and our last question, because we've just run out of time, Stephanie says, what if you're an events-driven community? Newsletters are the best way to consolidate all of the events.
Sorry, could you say that again, Valentina, real quickly?
Yeah. What if you're an events-driven community? Newsletters are the best way to consolidate all of the events.
Yeah, I mean, I think summarizing your upcoming events is great. I'm not a big fan of event recaps. I think a lot of event content is a bit blah at times. To me, event content is great when someone gets something new out of it. So for example, if you're announcing, hey, we've got 2 events coming up, the body of that email I'd recommend is going to be like, what are you going to get something, what new information can you get out of it? So let's say you do an event recap, providing links to session videos, ebooks with insights from that event, and then talking about your future events, I think works out really well. But it's a tricky balance. So,
yeah, no, definitely. All right, that is all we've got time for. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Once again, thank you, Jono, for the amazing presentation. I think we've all learned so much in a very short space of time. We are going to be back in a few minutes with some more speakers, so make sure you check your agenda to decide where you want to go, and I will see you very soon. Thank you, Jono.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye.